there are only really three ways to grow your audience. You can create it by posting organic content, you can access it by piggybacking off other people's audiences, and you can pay for it by running ads. So this is something that I've started calling the attention triangle. And basically each corner of it is a different lever that you can pull to gain traction online. Now there's no kind of panacea here. There's no perfect option. Like ultimately we're not just trying to build any audience. We're trying to build an audience who buys stuff from us. So because of that, you need to build relationships and trust, which takes time. And each option also has trade-offs. There are certain skills that you need to develop for each one as well. And so there's no kind of right or wrong way to grow your audience. There's simply the way that makes most sense for your specific situation. But in this video, I want to go through the three options, go through these three levers, and hopefully in the process help you highlight the right one for you, and maybe in the process tell if there's a more efficient way that you could be growing. So I hope you find this useful, and with that said, let's get into it. Like I was just hinting at, growing an audience always costs something. Like there's no such thing as a free lunch here. It's just that the currency at each corner of the attention triangle, the type of investment that you're making is different. So when you're creating attention, you're paying with time. When you're accessing it, you're paying with relationships or social capital. And when you're paying for attention, you're obviously paying with money. Each of these levers gets results. Each one you pull will help you grow your audience. But just like taking US dollars to Southeast Asia or something, you realize that certain currencies deliver better bang for your buck. Like you can get more for your money with certain currencies. So with that said, let's kind of dive into the pros and cons of each option. So posting content is by far and away the most accessible way to grow your audience. There's basically no barrier to entry. Assuming you have a phone and an internet connection, you don't have to pay any money. You don't need status or authority in your space. And although there's a big difference between posting content and posting content that gets results, basically anyone can do it. Anyone can create a profile, sign in, and start sharing content on the platform. The main downside here, the main trade-off to creating attention is obviously time. Like this is a slow burn approach. Like it takes time to gather momentum and grow your audience by posting organic content. Like for example, in my last business, which relied on organic content, it took me the best part of 5 years to see meaningful results, like 5 years of working day in and day out to see meaningful traction in terms of audience growth. So you have to post consistently, you have to keep showing up, keep posting, and be willing to do so for months or potentially years without getting any return on that investment. Another thing to point out about content creation is that it's also something that you should never really stop doing. Even though I call this the attention triangle, in some ways it's more like an attention pyramid where you have content creation as the foundational level of it. Content, it lets you share your ideas, and ideas are kind of crucial for people to buy into before they buy your stuff. It lets you communicate the value you can provide to people, and it also lets you invite people into your world. And then in some ways, the other levers kind of stack on top of it, because content creation is often what helps you build the connections and relationships and authority, the social capital that lets you get access to other people's audiences. But it's also a fundamental part of running ads. Like you can't really create an ad unless you have content, and the best ads often come from the best organic content. And so even if you're in a position already where you can access other people's audiences and pay for attention with ads, it doesn't mean that you should stop posting content. It just means that you don't have to devote as much time and energy and attention to it right now, and that it's not necessarily the most efficient place to start. And so with that time component in mind, let's move on to accessing attention. Compared to content creation, you get results quickly, and like content creation, you don't need any money to get started. You also don't have to spend the time learning how to run profitable ads. Instead, you piggyback off the attention and trust that other people have already built. So you're growing your audience by tapping into theirs. The main benefit of this is speed. Like you get a level of reach that could otherwise take months or years to create from scratch, but you're also tapping into their status, kind of like being friends with the cool kid at school. Like naturally it makes you a little bit cooler just by kind of associating with them, or the fact that they've associated associated themselves with you. Accessing attention also means that you don't need as many leads to get the results you want, because the people that you're talking to, the people who come to you, they end up as kind of pre-qualified leads, people that you know are a good fit for what you do. And so you don't need as many of them to get the results that you want. The trade-off to accessing attention is that it requires some level of authority, relationship, and social capital. Like, you have to have something to offer. And so this is why collaborations generally only happen between creators who already have a level of traction, who already have authority in their space. You need to have that connection, you need to have that trust and rapport, and you need to be able to provide value to their audience. However, if you have that social capital already, if you have those connections, then accessing attention in this way is arguably the most efficient and effective way to grow an audience of people who will buy from you. Next, let's turn to the quickest way. So the quickest and most reliable way to grow your audience is with ads, by paying for that attention. And it's also the lowest effort strategy. You can press a few buttons and put your stuff in front of thousands or even tens of thousands or more of potential clients. But the trade-off here when it comes to running ads is obviously money and skill. Like, running ads, especially when you've never run them before, is kind of fraught with risk. If my experience is anything to go off with ads, there's a steep learning curve involved, and it's very easy to burn through your budget while you're figuring things out. If you know what you're doing, this is definitely the quickest way to grow your audience and to grow an audience of people who will buy from you, but it's also the most expensive and highest risk option. So when it comes to using these different strategies to grow your audience, obviously the most efficient way to do it is to pull all three levers at once. That's kind of the end goal that we're looking for. So at a certain point, we'll be doing all three of these. We'll be accessing audiences, running ads, and posting content all at the same time. But before you get there, like, there's often a kind of progression that you have to go through. Ultimately, all you can do is use the resources that you have today to generate the attention that you need. So if you have those relationships, if you have social capital, or if you have the money to access the masterminds and groups where you can kind of get them quite quickly, accessing attention is the best way to go. If you have the budget and you're willing to spend some money to learn the ropes, start running ads. But if all you have is time right now, even if you don't have much time, but you don't have the budget or relationships either, all you can do is run content. That's kind of the only lever you can pull at this point in time to start generating traction online. And then over time, as we start accruing the different currencies, we can pull the different levers to accelerate results. Just to finish, here's a quick table and a visual that kind of summarizes the various pros and cons involved. You can see that the main downside of creating attention is the speed. It's slow, but the cost and risk involved are low, which means that there's basically no barrier to entry. And so this is kind of the best option for beginners. When it comes to accessing attention, this is a fast way to generate results. Again, the cost and the risk involved are low, but the barrier to entry is a little higher this time. It comes down to having social capital. This, for me, is the best overall option. Then when it comes to paying for attention, this is the fastest way to grow, but it requires having the skills and budget to use. This graph shows that, when it comes to creating attention, it's available to anyone, but it's slow. Accessing attention, it's much quicker, but it isn't available to everyone. Then when it comes to paying for attention, the barrier to entry is much higher, but you also get the fastest results. And so again, all of these levers work, but they all have trade-offs, and they're not going to be right for everyone at every point in their kind of journey. And so all you can do is pick your poison, pick the one that's at your disposal right now, and then over time start pulling the other levers as they become available. So that's kind of everything I wanted to cover with this one. I hope that's been somewhat useful. Before you go, check out the link in the description. It takes you to something called the 10-minute offer unlock. Ultimately, growing your audience is only ever one half of the battle, and it's not even necessarily the most important one. That you have to make sure that if you're selling something, the offer that you're sending people to has everything it needs to convert, because otherwise you basically have a leaky bucket and you could be wasting an awful lot of time and effort. So the 10-minute offer unlock, it's a simple tool I put together, gives you a visual depiction of the strength of your offer. It shows you whether there are any hidden gaps or untapped opportunities. It takes 10 minutes or less, totally free, and so I recommend checking that out. And finally, if you want to save some time on content creation and you want to speed up the process of getting meaningful results from what you're posting, check out this video next. I'll walk you through something called straight line content, which is the simple framework I put together to help on both fronts. So I hope you find that useful. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.